Yes, sir.
So, very good morning to all of you. And today we will start from our topic which we have left yesterday's class there. We were talking about classification of the fluid flow actually. So we did several classifications based on your first was the fluid properties. Fluid property means whether the inviscid flow or viscous flow. Inviscid means the viscosity is almost the negligible. Viscous means they have the viscosity in that particular part. Second part you treated based on their compressibility factors, means their property means especially the density of the fluid. If it is getting changed with time or with the flow properties, then you have treated the incompressible and compressible fluid. So all liquids under normal conditions you are being considered as the incompressible fluid because density doesn't change much in general operating range. That is, you can say between room temperature to let's say up to 40 or 45 degrees Celsius something. Especially for water actually, if you are talking about petrol or something, for 45 is too high for petrol. So that cannot be treated as incompressible fluid actually. Then you have talked about based on the flow patterns. So there you have talked about some laminar flow or the streamline flow, or then you have transition flow. There you don't have you have a zigzag pattern. The another one is tubular flow means no pattern at all actually. Everything has been just like a disturbed. Just you might have seen the time of flooding. So flooding case, you can see the whole thing is just like a cloud actually, right? If water is very clear, you will just say the cloudy part in water flow only, lot of bubbles and lot of the disturbance. At the same time, when you open a channel or the river or dam, and after some time you say it is everything is moving with a streamline pattern, right? So that's you can say that silent flow or calm flow actually. In that case, disturbance are not many. So that can be treated to the laminar flow or the streamline flow. Looks like that, but it may not be actually. It could be a transition flow also, right? Then you talked about flow based on that, whether it is the internal flow or the means the external flow. Internal flows means all flows within a confined system actually. So best confined system, you have your pipe. Most of the fluids which are, you can say, toxic and costly, and so those need to be transported through the pipeline only because you cannot leave them open channel flow because those will get contaminated. So to avoid the contamination, to get a particular pressure, particular velocity, you have to confine the fluid. Otherwise, you cannot pump it. Just like a river or a canal, you cannot do anything to make it flow. You cannot apply their pump also in that particular case. So in that case, only thing you can do the slope. The gravity is the only force which will be helpful for transportation of the fluid. So therefore, river bed is always in the slopy part only. They goes from altitude to the low altitude only, right? So gravity is the only force. Open flow cannot sustain any pressure or force. Fine. So now, after that, you came to another classification based on the dimensions of the fluid flow. So dimensions means you are talking that whether flow is completely in one dimensional without any disturbance. So that is called completely one dimensional. It could be dimension X, it could be dimension Y, it could be a dimension Z. So that is one dimensional. Then two dimensional means something, it may move, something like that. One minute. So the another thing could be that you have two dimensional, your things can move is going in this side, but maybe in that pattern. So in that case, you have a two-dimensional flow. The things are going in this direction x also, or in this direction y also. So this type of movement would become your two-dimensional flow. Sometimes you have the cases that it would be the disturbance in all sides. Means sometimes it may go something like that. A trajectory of a launching body or the rocket or anything which you will throw in air or water, it would be always a three-dimensional because it generally go this way. So it have all three component x, y, z. Fine. So in last class, we have the explained here flow in the pipeline here in this case. So in the beginning, it was completely one-dimensional. After that, you have seen there this velocity component is getting changed with respect to this r coordinate and with respect to your z coordinate till this particular point here, till this fourth figure. So velocity is getting changed with respect to your z coordinate and with respect to your r coordinate, which is the radius of the pipe. After this, if you will go from second last figure and the last figure, they are completely overlapping here. You can overlap one on top of the each other. It means after this, the velocity profile is not changing further. Whatever pattern has been achieved here now is not getting changed. So this condition we say is fully developed flow. Means fully developed means after that no change in flow pattern. Now, if you will see here, this velocity now from the second last figure to the last figure, this velocity at a particular position r, let's say at the center line, you have same magnitude here and same magnitude in the last figure. It means this velocity at any point r is not changing with respect to z, but it's changing with respect to r only. If you go to the different r here, the centers, if you go slightly up, you have a different velocity. Further up, you have different velocity. So it means your velocity is getting changed now only with respect to r, not with respect to z. So now this velocity would be a function of r only. So this is now totally one-dimensional flow. Till this particular point here, this the till fourth figure here, you have velocity the function of r and z. Fine. So in the beginning, flow was two-dimensional. After that, once it reached to the fully developed flow criteria, then it has been changed to the one-dimensional. Fine. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this we have covered in the last class. Let's say the next further explanation of that. So this part we have just covered here because what you can see here till this particular point here, the diameter of the pipe is not getting changed. Fine, till this particular point here. So diameter of the pipeline is same. So in that particular range, your velocity is just a function of r. You see that these three velocity profiles, these are completely mirror images of the each other, and velocity is just changing with respect to the r coordinate, which is the radius of the pipe. Now let's see in this particular section here. Now your pipe is just diverging. Means you have changed the diameter of the pipe gradually here. So here diameter of pipe is increasing. Now you see the flow pattern here. Again, your velocity profile here, this one, after that this has been changed further, and again it has been changed. Now what happened in this particular case? Your actually velocity now has become two-dimensional here because the diameter of the pipe is changing. Whether it may gradually decrease or the increase, in this case it is the increasing, means the divergent part here. So in this case now the velocity has become now two-dimensional again. Fine. So to have completely one-dimensional flow in a pipeline, you should have a uniform diameter of the pipe. Now, what this say here, so if you will say the side view of this particular pipe, if you are at a position R, you will look like this type of velocity profile. What does it mean here? That if you are a particular position R on this particular point here, so if you will just draw the circle of that particular radius, what you will have on this circumference, your velocity magnitudes are same because all are equally distance away. Just like this pipe, so if you are on this surface, everywhere velocity magnitude is same. Just like this one, the second point on here, second point on here, same velocity. So you can complete the circumference here. So that means this velocity is not changing with respect to theta coordinate. Why theta coordinate? Because your radius is not like that as a particular point here, the radius here 2 centimeter, here is 3 centimeter, here is 4 centimeter. It's not happening that case. You have a circumference in such a way that it have a fixed radius. In that case, your velocity would not be a function of theta, means that your flow would be symmetric from the center line. If you are 2 centimeter far away, so as every 2 centimeter far away from the center, you have same velocity. Fine. So this type of flow is called axisymmetric flow, means velocity is not changing with respect to theta coordinate. Fine. Are
Yes,
you
sir.
getting it? Huh. So velocity in the axisymmetric flow condition means this means velocity is not the function of theta. Now these are the some parameters. So one parameter you already know here, the streamline case, right? This one you already know that this one second on top side on the right one, this you already know, a streamline, right? Let's say the first one here, path line. Path line means you are just focusing, this is the cross section here. Now from here, the number of particles may be passing at each time. Now you want to, let's say you have marked a particular particle here, or let's say you have injected a foreign material or a colored particle here at this particular point. Now you are just tracing where will this particle go, right? So let's say this particle has moved from this side. So you are just tracing only this particle only. You can give this a particular number. Let's say particle number 1. So particle number 1 has traveled by this route. Particle number 2 has traveled by this route. Particle number 3 has traveled this route. So route of individual particle is treated as the path line. Now, let's say this one, streak line, this one. So the streak line says here you are focusing on all particles passing from this particular cross section. Now you mark them 1, 2, 3. And then you are just joining all the particles at a particular instant. Means for these 3 particles, let's say this was the particle 1 which came out first, then this was particle 2 which came out the second, this particle number 3 which came out a third. The first particle 1 went, then particle 2 went, then particle 3 went. So you want to join particle 1, 2, 3. So if you join this, so your line would be something like that. You join this way. So this would become your streak line. So the streak line means you are joining the particles in the order they have passed a particular point. So let's say you are focusing on this point, just join all particles. Fine? Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Huh. Now, as the time will pass on, the streak line will keep on the growing actually, and you will have a bigger and all this. Now you come to here, streamline part. So in the streamline, what condition do we put? First condition we will put that velocity vector is always tangential to
Cross section.
Hello? This one student, can he mute his mic actually? Streamline, so how do we characterize them? Anyone want to say something for the streamline?
Layers are parallel to each other.
Yeah, that is one thing. But if you are only focusing on one layer, what would you say?
Velocity vector normal to the cross section surface.
Say it again. Say
I
it
think
again.
velocity vector
Velocity.
should be normal to the surface or the cross section, we can say.
No, no, don't get confused. So velocity vector is always tangential to the direction of the flow only. Let's say this one. So if the streamline is this one, and if you will draw the velocity vector here, this is the tangential to that only. So this is the condition for the streamline. One streamline only. Velocity vector is always tangential to the direction of the flow only. So how would you calculate the tangent? So if you want to calculate tan theta, how would you calculate dy upon dx only? Fine. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So in that case, if you want to calculate tangent for this particular the streamline, so you just select any 2 point on the point. So first point you have selected here, second point you have taken here. So in this way, so here what you have here, so this is your the dx, this is your dy. Now this velocity is going this side, so it will have one x component of the velocity, one is the y component of the velocity, because it's not going completely horizontal, it's going this way. So it will have one x component of the velocity in the horizontal side, one is y component of the velocity, right? So you have the x component of the velocity is being treated as u, y component of velocity is being treated as v. So you can calculate by tangent by two way. One is by tan theta is equal to dy upon dx. Other one, tan theta, can be calculated in terms of magnitude of velocities v by u. So you got here one correlation, that tan theta equal to dy upon dx equal to v upon u. So wherever you are checking the streamline criteria, so you have to make sure that dy upon dx should be equal to v by
You.
right. So that was the something for that. Now, before we solve any problem or before we want to study anything, we have to define two things. What is the system? And then we have to define our control volume and control surfaces part. System means a particular thing on you want to study. Just like this first cylinder here, this one, this total thing is called, if you will just put the envelope on entire thing here, this one is called completely one system. What is happening in this system here? You have a gas of 2 kg mass, 1 meter cube volume. You are heating it by some means, and you have a moving piston here. This entire thing is called a system here. Fine. Now, as you are the heating here, so it's actually volume can expand because this particular boundary is movable. So movable means now its volume has been changed. So mass is same here. So your volume has been changed. That volume now has become 1.5 meter cube. So what is the difference between two? System is same, right? System is same. So what has been changed from here to here? Can you
Some
identify?
extensive property has changed, sir.
Hello.
Extensive property, okay.
Yes, so like volume and temperature of the system has been changed.
Right. So volume and
Yes, sir.
temperature has been changed. So you got another parameter in picture, a control volume,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So you got two things, one is the system, one is control volume. Now the system, if you see from here to here, mass is same, right? So mass is same, so the system have a constant mass, but not a constant volume if boundaries are not fixed. Fine. Think about this closed system here, this one here, this completely closed system, no moving boundary, nothing. Everything is constant here. Everything means, I am talking for timing two things only. your here volume and mass. Rest of the things I am not talking. I am not talking about density here because you can provide the heat here. Only thing you have just made it closed system. Previously was the movable system here. So in closed system, your no change in mass, right? However, energy can transfer. Energy can transfer, either you can heat it or you can cool it. So energy can transfer a particular, all systems, maybe a closed system, maybe a movable system, but mass cannot transfer in both the systems. So here, so no change in mass in case of closed system. Now you have one more term now here, open system. So you have four terms here. One is called the system here. The system is a quantity of matter confined in a particular space. Surroundings, you have mass, the region here, then you have boundary. Boundary means just put a tight envelope on entire thing that is treated as the boundary only. This is the closed system. Here, closed system means that no mass is coming in, no mass is going out. That is being treated as a closed system. Then you have one thing here, open system also. So open system case, you have your boundaries are open, and here you can see this particular the cylinder here. From here the mass is coming in, right? So this particular thing is being treated as the open system. Now this is the nozzle here. So for one side your fluid is coming, one side is fluid is going here. So this is also the example of the open system. So in case of the open system, we always focus on control volume. Now, in this case, its volume is fixed because this shape is fixed. Whatever shape of the nozzle is, that is fixed. It means its volume is fixed. Now, mass is not fixed because your fluid is coming from a different velocity, may go out but a different velocity depending on constraint. It may have compressive property also within that. So some mass may be accumulated, some mass may, so mass is not a conserve in case of the open system flow, right? Or a control volume part, but volume is fixed because the fixed shape and size. Is that fine? So in case of your chemical engineering fluid mechanics, where you are talking about the flow through the pipes, so your diameter of pipe is fixed, your length of the pipe is fixed. In case your volume is fixed. Now mass may change depending on your how much pressure you are putting. So pressure may change the density. You can provide heating or cooling also, so that may change the density also. So due to which your mass within that particular pipe would change with respect to time, but its volume would remain constant. Fine? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's fine.
Next is method of the analysis part here. So this has come from the previous part also. One is this one, the closed system, I mean the approach closed system, because you have not studied thermodynamics so far. So closed system is this only, a closed container, everything is closed. The mass is not crossing the boundary. No flow term, no flow in, no flow out. All boundaries are closed. You can either heat it or cool it. Fine? Either heat it or cool it, or you can compress up also by means of the piston also. So this is called a closed system being studied in thermodynamics. In fluid mechanics, let's say this one here, you have several pipes. One pipe is here. Now you want to change the direction of the flow. So this is practically a example of T. T means here you have the three connections. The three connections will call a T actually. So in this case, you have one pipe, one fluid is coming from this side, is going from this side. It might come in from here. So you have here one control surface. Here, this is called the control surface, from where mass can either come in or can go out. That particular point is called a control surface. So here you have one control surface at this particular point 1. Another control surface at this one 2. Another control surface is third one here. So the control surface is the point where mass can come in and can go out. And the entire envelope of this particular system is called a control volume. Fine. So in fluid mechanics, we will take control volume approach actually. Now this is most important point in any analysis actually. Maybe in the transaction of the money which we do every day, or in engineering calculations or all calculations, dimensions are must actually. So that's what is the first thing. You should know the dimensions and measurement, the systems here. You cannot club the two. Now you should not club the two. This is not practically advisable. Generally, we use the MKS system or the SI system. There are slight change in MKS and the SI, but if we say on a larger extent, both will look like same. So we will follow completely the SI system here. So here your length, you have meter, mass in kg, and time in second. Temperature, Kelvin, electricity, you want to have ampere. Light, candela, we don't use here actually, and the amount of matter, moles and particles we don't use in the fluid mechanics. So you practically need meter, kg, and second only. Fine. Now we will consider this only, that your SI system only. So SI system, you have 1 Newton equal to 1 kg meter per second square. Do you know the definition of 1 Newton force? Anyone know the definition of 1 Newton force? Hello? How much is 1 Newton force?
सर यूनिट मास ऑब्जेक्ट को 1 यूनिट एक्सेलरेट करने के लिए 1 मीटर पर सेकंड जितना फोर्स रिक्वायर्ड होता है.
Right. So same thing. So 1 Newton is the force which can generate 1 meter per second square acceleration in 1 kg mass, right? But British people, British units have the different, where you have pound force, feet, and temperature are the ranking and second. So do anyone know what is 1 pound force? I hope you might have heard first time here. So 1 pound force again is same thing. You can see from this particular slide. So 1 pound force is the force which can generate 1 feet per second square acceleration in 1 slug mass. Now what is 1 slug? You can see from here, 1 slug is 32.2 pound mass. Okay. How much is 1 pound? Any exam means any answer for that?
0.45 kilogram.
Yeah, you can say that 453.253 actually gram actually. So that is 1 pound force. So you are buying pound. What quantity do you buy in pound?
सर मास.
Have you purchased any vegetable in pound so far?
Cake, sir.
नो सर.
Yeah, cake is the only thing, right? Cake is the only thing, because cake is not the Indian dish. It was being made by British people. So the cake is in pound. One more thing also, wool. Wool is also being sold in terms of pound only. So these are the two daily use examples which are being sold in pound only. That your wool and your cake. Now you have properties of the fluid, so we should also know what properties the fluid have. So property, you can list them here. You have mass, volume, temperature, pressure, and density. Out of that, you can classify them into two categories. One is the intensive property, one is the extensive property. So intensive properties are not dependent of your quantity actually. Quantity means whether 1 kg, 2 kg or 1 liter, 10 liter, 50 liters. So those are not quantity dependent parameters. Those are being treated as the intensive properties. So you have in that category, you have temperature, pressure, density, viscosity, surface tension, and obviously heat capacity also. They are the all those properties which are not the dependent on quantity. Rest of the properties goes in the category of the extensive property, just like your mass and volume. Fine. Now come to this part here, continuum here, because what we have studied so far, we have to use calculate the means acceleration, your velocity, your everything, and all we use your Newton's law actually. Newton's have the give the law of dynamics of the motions, and those are valid everywhere. What they say, they want to say on a system. And now the system we have just talked about previously, right? We have talked about previously. System means its mass should not change, right? Hello, give some response
Yes,
in the
sir.
meantime. The system means its mass should not change. Now we have talked previous slide also that in case of fluid mechanics, we treat with the control volume means the approach, not a control system approach, because we are making the things to flow actually. So we know the control volume, we don't know the control the system because the mass is not a conserved quantity there. But still we want to solve the problem. So what do we do in that particular case? Let's say this one here. So here you have one particle here, another particle here, another. So in this particular, this entire particular mesh here, the square here, you have just 3 particles. Now somehow, if you can fix these 3 particles, that all the time at all instant, this particular control volume would have only 3 particles. Will its mass change? Any response?
No, sir.
No, right? So in continuum fluid mechanics, what we are treating there, you are taking a differential volume, just like this only, in such a way that total number of particles leaving the control volume or entering the control volume in such a way that total number of particles within the control volume remains constant, because the fluid continuously flowing, particles are moving here and there. You are confined only on a control volume, differential volume, in such a way that the total number of particles within the control volumes are constant. And then you can say that control volume approach, you can say the maybe slightly equal to your control system, so that your mass is same now, or its property within the control volumes are same, because once you have fixed up your number of particles, your actually the density would remain constant, because the mass upon volume, mass is fixed, volume of control volume is fixed. So you can calculate the constant density in that case. So continuum fluid mechanics says that you fluid have the homogeneous mixtures of infinite number of the particles, and particles in a particular control volume remains constant. So that is called continuum fluid mechanics. Fine?
Yes, sir.
So this is what I was talking there. So in continuum fluid mechanics, what you have, let's say this was your particular control volume here. Now in that case, you are just focusing on a small differential volume, which has been expanded here further. So you see that these blue marked ones are the number of the particles, and you are just making a constraint that total number of particles within this particular control volume remains constant over the entire period of time. So in this case, your mass is also constant, its volume is constant, because shape of this particular differential volume is also constant. Your dx is constant, your dy is constant, your dz is constant. So you can calculate its density now, the delta m upon delta v. So this v, this symbol in this entire fluid mechanics would be used for volume. Normal v would be used for velocity, and this symbol would be used for volume. Fine. So from here you got the density. Now this density is not getting changed because the shape of size of control volume are same. So your density now is a function of x, y, z, and t. Generally, this could be a function. Because in case of fluid flow, what you will have the x variable, you will have y variable, you have z variable, one is your time, right? So generally, density could be a function of all four. But if you are putting a constant steady state, what would change here? This time will go away from here, right? Or if you are talking about incompressible fluids, so density is constant. Fine?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
these are some examples here that mean free path of the volumes and all this. So you can say this pigeon and so their feeders have some fixed mean free path. They cannot move as a very high distance something. So in case of the previous one also, the particles have some mean free path in that way. So this is some examples of mean free path. Then you have one thing here, one parameter. Now we need density. We need the specific gravity. So density is mass upon volume, as simple, right? So reverse of density is called the specific volume. Second thing is called specific gravity here. So specific gravity you are calculating with reference to some fluid. In case of the liquid, the reference fluid is water at 4 degrees Celsius. In case of gases, the reference fluid is being treated as air at STP. So the density of any fluid divided by density of water at 4 degrees C is called specific gravity of that particular fluid. It practically says how much heavier is it as compared to the reference fluid only. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Specific gravity only says that how much heavier or lighter is the fluid as compared to the reference fluid. So in case of the liquid, the reference fluid is water. At 4 degrees C, water density is being treated as 1 only. 1. Do you know the density of water? Density of water.
Yes, sir.
How much?
per
How
liter.
much?
1 cubic
1
centimeter.
kg per liter.
1 gram plus a little bit cube.
Yeah, 1 kg per liter is okay. You can
1
see
gram
here.
per cubic centimeter.
That is also fine. Both are same thing actually. So you have here the density of the sum of the commonly known fluids. So we will treat with water. So water is 1, or you can say 1000 kg per meter cube. You have blood is slightly heavier than water. Then you have seawater. You have gasoline, which is your petrol. Ethyl alcohol, you have mercury, you have 13.6. Then ice is okay. Then we deal with air. Air is how much? 1000 times means the lighter than water. Water was 1. Air is 0.001204, right? So it's 1000 times the lighter than water actually. Then you have one more term here, specific weight. So specific weight is just weight per unit volume. Fine. So these are some parameters which will be needed in calculations or treatment, and these are some basic definitions. Now, what is this? Something is ideal gases, because sometimes we need the flow of body in air. So that time we need these ideal gases calculations only. So ideal gas, you already know that ideal gas law, PV equal to nRT, right? So based on that, you can also calculate the density of the gas, right? This is the explanation. This is formula can be used, or does it need to be changed here? Is it correct that density be equal to how much? If you want to calculate density of an ideal gas, how would you calculate?
D is equals to PM upon RT.
Yeah, so the practically you have here this you have PV equal to nRT. So V is actually volume, and volume you will get from here. Then after that you multiply that volume by the molecular weight. So practically you get PM by RT is the mass density of the gas. Mass density means something kg per meter cube, right? That's called mass density. Then these are something just to calculate the temperature in Kelvin and the Rankine. So for Kelvin, you just add 273.15. For Rankine temperature in Fahrenheit, you add 459.67. Now, this is some major problems in pipeline. Have you seen this particular tower somewhere in our campus?
Yes, sir.
Where?
मेगा हॉस्टल के पीछे
Mega, I didn't go that side actually. I just know close to your temple. There you might have seen some a metal pipe there. So this is what you have here. When you have a pipeline, pipeline could be a flowing of water or flowing of the sewage water, right? Sewage water, which you are wastewater, discharge water. So that is also a pipeline through by some concrete pipe or duct, right? So what will happen in that case? Your water is continuously flowing at some very high velocity. If suddenly something happens to one of the end, the exit point slightly choked off. So if it would be choked off, that water would provide the lot of impact at that particular point where it is choked off. That impact will create a lot of vibrations in that particular pipe, and sometimes that magnitude is too much high if it is the abrupt closure. Abrupt closure means you have suddenly put a plate, just like you have a pipe here, iske aage some, just put a plate here, just like that you are running at some velocity and somebody has put a metal wall in front of you. What will happen to you? Your whole body will collapse and you will feel a lot of vibrations, right? Same thing happen in case of the pipeline. Pipeline, when you have, let's say one of the end due to very cold climate, it has some water, it has been frozen. So that the exit end is completely closed. You are pumping the water from one of the end with a very high velocity. Exit is closed, that high velocity fluid will hit that particular exit end and it will create the expansion of the pipe. At the same time, the sound waves would also create. Due to that, your pipe will get burst. Fine. So this concept is called water hammering. Means just like that, your water would also give the same sound as you are hammering the pipe. So this concept is called water hammer. So you are always advisable all the time. Don't close any walls suddenly. Just close them slowly, so that this water hammer concept can be done. Minimize your pipe or joint should remain as it is. They should not get failed. So due to this concept only, whenever people say the running part, no coach would say just stop immediately. But will anyone say that? No. It say stop slowly, right? So this is just some concept on that way, because if you suddenly stop, it creates the problem to heart, not body. Body can sustain the lot of part, but it creates the problem to the heart because you just have the sudden jerk on your chest actually. So it is not, you are not advisable any fast, mean the runner also to suddenly stop. So same concept is there for the water, the hammer also. it create it stop the breaths also actually. So due to that, wherever you have the joint or valve, you always create some sort of this type of duct or pipeline, because these are the points from where your pipe may get rupture, because yahin pe joint laga hai. Your pipe will get fail from which point? Wherever you have the joint. The rest of the point would be fine, right? So wherever you have a joint or wall, you just raise this type of actually constructions. So just to make sure that if in case due to water hammer or the something, this point get failed, this fluid will rise to a particular height. It will not spill to the nearby the area to avoid the accident. And this height in such a way, it can sustain the pressure which is coming from backside. If backside total energy of the fluid, let's say, is let's say 10 joule. So 10 joule can be converted into the height in terms of the rho GH, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So you have 10 joule,
Yes,
10 joule or the 100 joule that you can convert in terms of height by putting the formula rho GH. So you can calculate the height. So you know how much was the energy of the fluid coming in. Based on that, you can calculate what should be the height of this particular column. If this that calculation say height of the column should be 5 meter. So safer side, you will construct it to the 5.5 meter. Fine. So this is where you might have seen all the sewage duct. You can see this. One you can see in your the sports ground also. Have you seen? Sports ground में देखा है?
No, sir.
No, you have a white one there, close to your hostel 3, I think, something, right? The time you have this chair, this side you have a white tower type of thing. So that's there. That's wherever you have the sewage line or wherever a pipeline, wherever you have the valve there, so you have this type of column here, just to make sure. Now, let's say this one here. In each pipeline, you always put this type of safety valve. Have you seen the safety valve somewhere in your home?
Yes, sir.
Where? Where?
Yes, sir. In water tank.
Yes, sir.
Water tank में safety valve.
सर
Where?
पाइपलाइंस सर जो वाटर टैंक
Pipeline
सप्लाई
में-
करता है पूरे घर में वाटर, उसमें पाइपलाइंस जो होती है उसमें उसमें वॉल्व लगे होते हैं. वी कैन क्लोज दैट.
valve होता है, but I am talking safety valve. That is two things that different. One is valve, one is safety valve. So valve is just to control the flow.
On the submersible pump, so
Best one I can tell you, your pressure cooker. Pressure cooker, you have a small lid there, right? Pressure cooker mein, on top of that, you always have a lid, and there you have a rubber cork there. So suppose in case your whistle of that particular cooker choked up, that safety valve in such a way, before the rupture of the pressure cooker, that safety valve burst, so that your gases will leak from there, your vessel will remain safe. So safety valves are also being put in the pipelines also, wherever by chance, let's say failures can happen due to technical failure, due to the manual failures can happen anywhere. So safety valves you need to put, suppose the somewhere abrupt change are there, abrupt closure are there, you want a very toxic or hazardous fluid, just like petrol pipeline, something. So you need to put a safety valve. A safety valve means wherever something went wrong or pressure level in the pipeline becomes too much high, this point should burst first. And there you put a proper control system. Okay, this is the point will burst, and we are putting a controlling mechanism at this particular point. So you have there, you can see the eye here. So this eye from here, that particular water would get discharged. And then you control it, you will put a surge tank on top of that so that this fluid will come and fill up in a particular tank. So this is what you need here.